Welcome to Chris Parkin Shooting Sports. Today I'm out using the rimfire with a Nightforce NX8 scope. This is the 2.5 to 20 power by 50 magnification and its first focal plane with milliradian adjustments. Being a rimfire, we get to experiment more with the extent of the elevation range and the windage range because, of course, being a less ballistically effective rimfire, we use more of it, which tests the tracking and mechanical capabilities of the rifle scope as well as the optics within. The NX8 is supplied with flip-up covers, and the objective lens itself is recessed about 20mm for protection from internal protruding objects like foliage, twigs, etc. There's a flip-up lens cover at the back to protect the ocular lens. There's plenty of space on the 30mm tube to correspond with the Picatinny rail or integral mounts within most rifle systems. It also makes the choice of mounts quite simple. 34s can be a little bit more restrictive in some scenarios. Here you can see the removable throw lever, which makes changing magnification far simpler with less likelihood of physically disturbing precision aim point from the rifle system. There is a lock ring for eyepiece focusing. So once focused correctly for your eyes, the lock ring comes back and prevents any further movement. These are well knurled and easy to grip with just fingertips, and it's a smooth anodized finish so you don't rub it and leave skin everywhere, which looks unsightly. The NX8 is available in a 1:8 by 24 in f1 setup with first focal plane reticle. This 2.5 to 20 by 50 f1 has the first focal plane reticle, but it's also available in second focal plane option. The 4 to 32 by 50 is also available in first focal plane and second focal plane varieties. I was immediately impressed with the sight picture and especially the crisp reticle focus. There's an incredible amount of detail on the reticle, and of course being second focal plane, zooming in allows you to see more of it. Image resolution was fantastic, so I was able to see steel impacts from the smaller bullets at long range, and there was a lack of chromatic aberration because at this time of year there was a lot of low sunlight and bad angles to Being first focal plane means I can read off the reticle exactly the amount I want to dial the scope. So after seeing the fall of shot, approximately 1 milliradian left, I can now move my aim point to correspond with that and correct the aim off issue. Of course, the wind is always variable, so that's only something that works in the immediate, but it's one reason for shooting as quickly as possible when the wind is changing. Overall length is 12 inches or 305mm. The objective lens outer diameter is 59mm. The tube diameter is 30mm and the eyepiece outer diameter is 43mm. So now we're going to change distances. I'm not going to worry too much about the wind correction yet, but I need to go 2.5 mils up to compensate for the distance. Mounting length is 5.4 inches or 138mm spaced either side of the saddle for the rings. Front mounting length is 1.3 inches or 33mm and rear mounting length is 2.6 inches or 65mm. I'm going to drop that 3 clicks, which is 0.3 milliradians. I'm going to dial the same amount to the right. Wind has changed very slightly anyway. This milliradian version has 0.1 milliradian clicks, which is 1 centimetre at 100 metres. Overall mechanical adjustment is 32 milliradians for elevation and 23 milliradians windage. Each complete revolution of the turret gives 100 clicks or 10 milliradians. If you prefer minutes of angle, the click value is quarter MOA, An adjustment is 110 minutes of angle elevation or 80 minutes windage. I really like the zero stop elevation turret. The fact that you can allow as much or as little negative travel below the zero stop as you want to is superb. If you have to change ammunition in the field, this can be a valuable time saver. Eye relief is 88mm or 3.5 inches, and I found the eyebox quite versatile without losing sight picture through the recoil stroke of the rifle. Overall weight is 28.3 ounces or 802 grams. With this target being shorter, I'm going to just dial negative on. You're never going to shoot good groups on a swinging target. .4 mils. The scope is available in either first or second focal plane variants. This f1 is the first focal plane variant. At 2.5 times magnification, the exit pupil is 7.1mm. At full 20 times magnification, that reduces to 2.5mm. Now in the second focal plane version, those figures are 5.9mm to 2.5mm, so at low mag, slightly smaller exit pupil. Just a little bit high, aiming off 5 o'clock, the wind's picked up slightly. Field of view at 100 yards is 41.8 feet on low mag and 7 feet on 20 times magnification. At 100 metres, that's 13.9 metres on low magnification and 2.3 metres on high magnification. Elevation is controlled by these easily gripped turrets. There is a zero stop here in place just below, but from my 100 metre zero on the rimfire, I can use 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, almost 17 more milliradians of elevation. There's a vernier scale underneath which indicates how far above zero you are. Back to the zero stop. Click. I've got some negative travel there which allows me to dial lower if I need to. Zero stop is there. Windage control is under the cap on the right side, obviously marked left and right of centre, and there's 5 milliradians available in each direction, either side of zero. Nightforce supply a triangular Allen key, so you can slacken these off and reset zero on the turret once you've actually zeroed it on the rifle. I like the fact the clicks are incredibly tactile, and although I am looking at it and there is a zero stop here to make me, I've got plenty of negative allowance there for shorter ranges than 100 metres. Because I've got very, very tactile clicks, I don't have to take my head off the scope to make precise adjustments. Left side parallax adjustment is backlash free and runs from 11 yards or 10 metres all the way out to infinity. The Digilume Reticle Illumination system requires a 1 to 3 second hold to turn it on. A long hold in between time switches from red to green coloration, but intermediate single presses will change intensity, and it will flash at either end, low or high, for the scale, so you immediately know if you're at maximum or minimum intensity. Once you've zeroed the rifle, Nightforce supply this small triangular Allen key and torque set for setting up the turrets. So, starting with the elevation turret, we slacken off the two small opposing Allen screws there, and we can turn that back to indicate zero and then tighten them up. But there is also underneath here a clutch setup to allow us to set the zero stop. So if I completely slacken those off and lift this turret away, we can take that clear. And it tells us to slacken off all these 4 screws about half a turn each, which is effectively the clutch assembly. And we can now turn this back with no motion at all until this small pin here hits, and that is the 0 stop. I always tend to leave a slight amount of space there just in case I ever want to dial a little bit of negative if I'm changing ammunition in an emergency or anything like that. And once we've done that, we just nip these 4 screws back up. They don't need to be super tight. And that's it. Now you probably notice I actually nudged that slightly when I undid the first screw. It's not a huge problem, because once we've got this back on here, we can then set up the actual 0 point independently. And unless we're critical to every single click for the 0 stop amount, we've usually got plenty of space and room to maneuver. So I nip that back in place there now. And what you'll see here is if I go down, I'll hit the 0 stop. I've got 0.8 milliradians low there. And if I go up from 0 on this 223, well, I've got 10, 15, I've got 16.5 milliradians of adjustment there for shooting longer range. Back to the 0 stop, and then back up to 0 there, which should be correct for 100 meters. The windage turret works exactly the same way, and there are 2 opposing screws either side. Just slacken them off ever so slightly. Being a triangular thing, it's slightly awkward because it's not as easy as a regular Allen key. Just to get these into position, I think we might just have 1 Allen key there. Yes, and of course, that now turns. There are no clicks, nothing to confuse us with. So we just dial it back to 0 and nip up the single Allen screw. And there we go. Put the turret cap back on. Everything's ready to dial out to longer distances. I have to say I've been very impressed with the Nightforce setting up in some difficult low sun conditions as we have in winter. Unfortunately, my test range is set up for safe firing directions, not so much light capability. And the problem is in the winter, when the sun is very low, it does limit me slightly. Here you can see I put the PARD 007S on it for some night vision use later. Of course, once the rifle's been zeroed with the scope, adding the PARD on the back has no effect on 0 whatsoever, which is great for night vision users. I've also been doing a little bit of daylight shooting, but it's very difficult with the sun in such a low situation regardless. Here you can see the Nightforce set up with the PARD 007S on the back end. The parallel ocular body of the Nightforce scope makes it easy for such an add-on to be placed behind the scope and fastened securely for night vision use. Plentiful tube space has allowed me to add a Picatinny mount for a night vision external illuminator, which gives me greater long distance capability in the dark. All the illumination controls are accessed by this push button here. And if you need to change the battery, just screw parallax all the way anti-clockwise and the battery cap will remove for the usual CR2032 battery cell. With that tension back in place, just let the parallax go round, nip it up, and we're back to normal. The reticle is available in red and green colours, and it illuminates entirely from top to bottom and left to right. Given that this is a first focal plane scope, which aren't necessarily always the best for night vision add-ons, I found the Nightforce actually very easy to use, because even with the reticle and low magnification at its smallest, the ability to light up in 3 levels of either red or green made it pop up beautifully in the night vision rear add-on. Here you can see a perfect example of how a first focal plane reticle stays perfectly in proportion with the target as you zoom up and down. In the case of this Nightforce with a throw lever, it's very easy to use with just fingertip control. No requirement to use much force on the scope at all and disturb your aim point. Ignore the fact the reticle doesn't look quite square. That's because the part hasn't been put on correctly by myself. You don't tend to notice it when you're using it, but afterwards, when you see footage, you think, I haven't got that quite straight, so it just needs a slight twist on the mounting collar. Filming through the part doesn't show the full optical capability of the scope to the naked eye. But I have to say, in these difficult sun conditions, the fact I was able to engage those small 50mm targets over 100 metres was very pleasing, with the yellow giving minimal contrast against some of the backgrounds. Well, I hope you enjoyed watching this Nightforce scope review. It's of the premium range of scopes, but it gives you great performance in both low light and full daylight. Most importantly, this is a great scope for mechanical capabilities when it comes to long range dialing. The eyebox is quite versatile, you don't find yourself losing focus at any time, and of course with the large throw lever here, it's quick to adjust, and with it being first focal plane, the reticle stays in perfect proportion every time. The thing I like the most is that the turrets offer nice tactile clicks, and the zero stop is easy to set up without small parts to dismantle. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please like, please subscribe, please comment, and please click the notification bell, because that's what keeps making me videos. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.